Hello folks, we are back again. This is Owen from Organic Cardboard and myself, Pecktec. We are here to talk about expansion strategies. So that's going to encompass a couple of things. We're going to talk about some good ones, some games that with expansions we thought were appropriate and good to have, and some not so good ones. Maybe ones we probably would have, we could have done without because we just haven't played them. And probably won't.
Yeah, the ones that succumb to our FOMO, or how would you call it?
Yeah.
We succumbed to our own FOMO.
We had the Pokemondium of having to catch it all.
Yeah.
And then being sitting there looking at it and going, wow, you
caught too much.
You really take up a lot of space.
Yes.
Or maybe not, depending on Owen's case. But I'd like to start. The other thing I wanted to discuss, maybe I think we'll do this at the end. Now that we've bought a lot of these things, when do we decide not to get the expansion, or to get the, or like, when do we make that guess if we want that expansion or not?
Like if you do it immediately as soon as you're buying the core set, or if you wait till a few plays, or I don't know.
Basically, have you been burned so much that you'll never buy all the expansions again, or do you always want to get them? So we'll discuss a little bit of that too. There'll be time codes down below if you want to skip around. But I don't recommend it because we have just the most charming banter you've ever heard.
The most charming. Charming enough, anyways. It'll pass.
Starting with expansions we like. One of my favorite games of all time is Cuthulu Death May Die. Death May Die? Yeah.
You just put a dent in your box as you bring it over.
And then I wreck the whole thing. This very well may get a big box. I may big box this the way I did DEI and just take everything out. But basically, this whole game consists of about 3 boxes this size. And that's all the stuff.
Not including the big mini.
Not including the giant Cuthulu.
The mini.
The megature.
I guess
that sort of lords over the
gargantuature.
He just kind of watches over us and stuff, and even his adventure isn't really that much fun.
Yeah.
But it's still kind of it's a neat thing to have, and boy is it cheap compared to what they did this last time with the zombie. The Marvel zombies, the Galactus.
Oh yeah, because that was come on too. Yeah, okay, yeah. See, they go crazy with their stuff. With the talk about stuff you don't need. We could just talk about come on.
I think they are notorious for just pumping out stuff. And I think it was a Zombicide campaign, the Zombicide Invader I'd gotten, and I tried to, and that's the first one where I was like, you know what? Maybe I just don't buy all of it, because it's just like it felt like they're just throwing in stuff. And this one I didn't buy one of the gods or the elder gods, and I didn't buy the season 2, like the other expansion for this. So all I got was like the extra content, and we played all the way through this box like in just record time. And you can play this box over and over and over again. There's a lot of expansions and stuff. I just realized I have 2 cameras.
We do have 2 cameras going.
But we played all the way through these expansions and stuff, and I was just like, oh man, I love this game. And I went out and I bought the rest. And I didn't pay. I think I actually got the season 2 for probably $10 cheaper. Yeah. And I didn't pay. Paid free shipping. So,
which that's often the case whenever you're doing a Kickstarter back. Like, it's a hard choice when you see it up there. You're like, I want it now, and then go, oh, I gotta wait. And sometimes when you wait, you can't get it too, and it's like that's the whole FOMO thing. So it's like, but if you can wait, if you are patient, you do usually get rewarded. Except for those like you said, the extra Kickstarter box.
Yeah, there are niche things that don't. But I for whatever reason, this didn't like set the world on fire when it came out. It was kind of like that secret sleeper kind of thing. But and you've never played this version of it. We played the big guy, but you haven't even played like a regular game of this.
No, we just played that last scenario for fun last Halloween. He brought it up to the board game meetup that we usually do, and it was a lot of fun. And we were all goofing around. We We were playing a really silly, like nobody was being serious during the game, but we were enjoying our time. And then I had the most epic battle at the end, and nobody was paying attention except for Sean. Rasputin against the big Cuthulu character, and then Rasputin did win on his last roll, and I was like, yay, and everybody else wasn't even looking.
And that is so Cthulhu Death May Die.
Yeah.
Like you always, like you kind of win, but it's like right at the skin of your teeth, and occasionally you don't win, and you're sad. But
Right.
But this is a
Or you're crazy, right? Yeah, you're insane.
yeah. The nature of this system is it's real modular. So you can add and remove things, so you're still playing with stuff from the core box, even through all the expansions and stuff if you want. Or you can bring all, it's really cool. You can swap between all the different boxes, and the only thing that's kind of really different between them is that there are different adventures. I mean, there's other heroes and stuff, but they have that heroes and monsters kind of thing going on, and you can swap between all the boxes and just create kind of infinite scenarios to play under. And so because of that, it made incorporating new expansions really easy to do, and anything that just makes it like super easy to incorporate the expansions, like they would be a new adventure with a whole different set of rules, but it's like maybe 2 other rules to learn. And over the course of a game, it's really easy to adapt to that. So yeah, I really like this one. I loved this one enough to get all the expansions, and then when it came out in Kickstarter, I just went ahead and got it.
Yeah, and I mean that's like one of the main reasons why you're going to get expansions for anything is if it's something that you really love, that you want to keep playing that game. And then I've never gotten into a game so much that I actually started going, let's look for some user created scenarios and piece them together like that. But if you really love a system, you love it, then that's absolutely a great reason to have all that extra content. But oftentimes you don't know that you love it so much. And you grab all that other stuff before you're ready.
All right, so what's one you love?
So one of my favorite games, probably, I mean, this might be like top 3 favorite games, is the all well-loved Scythe. Love Scythe. It's so much fun. You and I both played a ton of the digital. He's played probably a lot more Scythe than I have. Just
I played a couple of times
a day. Digital version of it. Now Scythe is not a command game. It's made by Stonemaier, and they do like an appropriate, I would say, an appropriate amount of expansion content for any of their games that they're doing. And so Scythe, the expansions that went with it, there was only like 3 expansions. If you don't count like just extras, like the upgraded resources and the little coins and stuff like that.
The aesthetic ones.
Yeah, aesthetics. Which those are really nice too. So, it all, whatever. Maybe at some point I'll go beyond just having gone the middle coin route. So with this one though, you add like some airships in there as one of the expansions, and they add some extra optional like things that you can do on your turns, and then you've got a couple extra characters that add extra people that can actually play, and even the main board has got them already printed on there, so it almost kind of like needling you to want to get it because you want to be able to use your whole main board. And then they have like a whole story campaign for Scythe where you play through, I don't remember, like maybe 8 or so scenarios. And you have an ultimate winner at the end, which is excellent. It plays really well for a game that's already just wonderful on its own. Each one of these, like I use, I at least will use the 2 expansions and even a part of the 3rd expansion if I'm not playing the storyline. There's 2 additional factions that you can get from the expansion to use too that are a little goofy and different, quite a bit different than the other ones. The other ones are more of like a standard, like if you were playing like a league play or something like that. People get really into Scythe, and some people go through these big tournaments of Scythe. The ones that come from the expansion are still fit perfectly well. They're just kind of goofy. They break some rules in a little bit of a way, sort of. I don't know. It all works though. They're just known for making really high quality games in general. Stonemaier is, and so with Scythe, I got the core set of it. I think Ashley got this for me for like a Christmas present. Because I told her to.
Please.
I hinted strongly about it, and she got it. And then as soon as I played like one game of it, I was just like, all right, what other content is there for this game? And I started looking it up, and I was like, yeah, let's see if we can just get the rest of it together. And I did not feel bad about that at all. Definitely wasn't a fun thing. And I actually got this all in this. This is the core box of it. This actually was able to get all the expansion content with a 3D printed insert. But it does have about a centimeter or so. Once it's sitting with the weight, it has about a centimeter of lid lift on it.
Yeah, he's got all of Scythe in here.
Holds all of it in there. And then we'll show Sean actually has Scythe too. I'm not going to pull all this out, but I've got all the different factions in here and card sections, everything separated out. The ships are underneath. Really nice 3D printed insert that I made at home. If you don't have a 3D printer, that is an expansion to your board game hobby that you should get.
Well, that's definitely something to consider too, and it's going to come up with my negative for expansions. And that's this space.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that.
So this is like the expansion box. This is what's going to hold like all of the expansion content naturally, the way that it's supposed to be, nicely pieced out. But it's about twice the size of this one, isn't it? Yeah.
It's just a big box with some tuck boxes in it and stuff, and it's pretty nice and all, but
it's great if you have painted miniatures, which Sean painted all of his miniatures, so this is excellent for him because it keeps them all spaced out and really carefully held in there. Mine are just kind of like packed into these little plastic boxes that I printed out.
But he can fit like a whole nother board game on his shelf,
right?
With his storage solution there. So I really admire that. That's great.
Yeah,
cool.
I like to condense things as much as possible, and sometimes these inserts come out really well for that, and sometimes they don't. All right, so
I've got one. You want to talk about a Space Hog? Let me show you the core box.
Yeah.
Here's core box A.
Core box Uno.
And core box B.
All right. How about those expansions?
So they're basically.
He's like, I don't want to break my back.
Just imagine 5 more of these.
Jesus, yeah.
And then maybe a couple of little small boxes, and you've got all the expansions to Solomon Kane.
And welcome to Kickstarter Bloat.
So this was supposed to be Mythic's big swan song game. Like, they had a lot riding on this game, it seemed like, and the way they talked about it. Most of this box is cards and books. And most of this box is miniatures and maybe a couple of dual layer player boards and stuff. They are, it is an absolutely enormous game. And because it took so long, this was kind of a weird scenario. Like, this game took, I want to say it's almost 4 years to come out. It was one of the first ones that I backed. In fact, I backed it right around the same time as Cuthulu Death May Die. And when I initially backed it, I got the core set, which is these things here. I don't know how much you could even say.
Right.
I should even care.
It's a lot.
So I got all of this, and then I guess a year went by, and they opened up the pledge manager and stuff, and I was like, I've got more money again. Maybe I'll get a little bit more. And then I was like, oh, but which one do I pick? And that whole process where I'm trying to choose amongst all of them just made me want all of it.
Yeah, jeez.
That's
what happens.
I couldn't pick, and I was like, oh, but what if I love this? What if I really like? What if it's like Cuthulu Death May Die, and I'm having to hunt it down later?
Here's my overloaded Scythe box in comparison, so you can see that much extra. Well, let me flip off the camera here. That much extra space on it. So it's, and I mean, if I move it where you can see underneath there, you can see the width difference. So it's both longer and taller, and there's like you said, another 5 or so more boxes.
So here's what I kind of failed to acknowledge as I craved more and more of this before it arrived. There's enough gameplay in this core box to probably last you. We could play regularly all year and probably just barely get through all of this.
Oh yeah.
Like there's a lot there. And then I just threw another another 5 or 6 times that on top of it. So it's a lot to get through. It's kind of a long game too.
Yeah.
So it's like, trying to get a session into this can be kind of tricky. So
yeah, that's just what happens. It's FOMO, it'll get you, and then but you do like the game though, right? Like
I do genuinely like it, but
not enough for all this content.
Boy, yeah, probably not that much.
Yeah.
Like I definitely like it enough to be glad to own this, but I don't know if I'll be keeping all the content. And I've already painted all of this too. Like this is the core set's 100% painted. Yeah. So I really like pulling out something that I've worked on so much previously, but I'm not looking forward to just kind of going through another 5 or 6 boxes of things. So I might pick like one of my favorites and over there, and like I should have done a couple of years ago. But
you could always, if you say you didn't paint all the expansions, so you could always at some point start getting rid of expansions and just keep the core that you really like.
That's probably what I'll do.
It's always an option, and a lot of times it's easier to sell expansions than it is to sell core boxes. A lot of times people already have the core box and they're looking for the expansions, so that's an option. But,
well, I'd never do what I did with this one. Like it stayed open so long that I just kept buying more and more until they took so long to put it out. I eventually just bought all of it.
Yeah.
Before it arrived, and the mat's terrible. It's the only mat I've ever regretted getting. Yeah. So expansion wise for Solomon Kane, like if you're looking at Solomon Kane, I encourage you to try it because it's a lot of fun. But just get this. Yeah. You don't need all the other stuff.
Yeah, and so speaking of, we're talking about Kickstarter bloat and grabbing these, all this stuff that you don't need. We mentioned Come On Games, and the one thing I appreciate about the fact that Come On Games does put out so much content in their Kickstarters is that it honestly has helped me with my FOMO on these things. Like I feel more comfortable about not getting stuff because I see so much stuff that's out there that's like once you start going, okay, like I don't need everything, and then you get what the core stuff you wanted, and you're like, even this is more than I'm going to play with, and then you feel good about having not purchased everything, and it starts to develop a little bit of self-control. I'm kind of at that point now with games where it's like in the beginning you want everything for whatever you're excited about, and then later on you're like, maybe I'll hold off a little bit and
well, I'm out of space.
Yeah.
And my wife's not into like the hoarder life where we just have boxes of things everywhere, so I have to stash my things away in my little man areas.
It's kind of just like how we played Castles of Burgundy recently, and eventually you start running out of space, and you have to start making strategic decisions over what you're going to put, and if you need to move something out of your way. So it does help a little bit. All right. You got enough out of that. So mine, now this is an excellent game. This is, I don't know if this is like, I would call this like my favorite game just because I don't get it out enough to probably call it my favorite game, but it's Spirit Island. So Spirit Island came out quite a while ago. I can't remember, but Greater Than Games makes it. If you're not aware of Spirit Island, I don't know why you wouldn't be, because most people are. But it's a really heavy thinking game. It's really puzzly.
Heavy co-op.
Yeah.
Which is kind of unusual, isn't it?
Yeah, and it works really well. It works better as a co-op than it does playing like multiple characters yourself, because you're sharing some of the headache of how to work your characters and their abilities. But it's an excellent game. Even if I don't say this is my favorite game, I would still rate this really highly. And again, only reason why I wouldn't say it's my favorite is because of the time requirement and the mental effort that it takes to play the game. I don't get it out as much as I would like. In fact, I haven't even gone through all of the core like characters and played through games with all of them and tried different sequences with them before I bought the whole second iteration. I can't remember, Jagged Earth, I think is what it's called. And then I also picked up promo content that I found for those 2 games, and now they already have a third one of these games out too. I can't remember what the third one.
The Target one.
Well, there is the Target one, which is honestly where you should start if you're thinking about Spirit Island. It's an excellent deal, but Now there's a whole nother. They did a whole nother expansion. I don't know if it's actually out yet, but I mean it's like the whole nother core box thing of it, I believe. But this one, again, I did the same thing with Scythe. I kind of packed it full. Got an insert where I could take and shove like all this content in, and even that has a fair amount of little more lid lift than my Scythe game does. But it's still a nice insert. Still has all the content. Now this, I don't feel absolutely terrible about the fact that I do have the expansion content that I have in here, because it is an excellent game, and at some point I may go back through and play it a bit more. But I know with what I have already, and the fact that I have had this so long and I have not played through all of it, I do not need any more of this expansion content. If I probably, if I knew where I was at right now with it, I probably would not have gotten any other expansion content for it. But I mean, I don't know. It's one of those games that if you know that you like Spirit Island, and you've played a lot of the base, you've gotten all that out. Certainly not like a bad game to have the expansion content for, but you really want to know that you're going to play it. And again, it's extra space on your shelf. I did compact this down quite a bit, but it's not going to fit evenly with all the other, size ones where you can fit a certain amount into your little Calyx cube, because this does have a ½ an inch or more of lid lift on it.
That does require a certain kind of that's not a game you pull out just like for a quick casual game, right? No,
it's not. It's you have to be in the mood for it. You have to be like in a mood to want to like be like, okay, what I feel like doing is drinking my cup of coffee for the morning and spending 4 hours playing a game by myself or with one friend.
Yeah.
Or you can, it goes up to four people, but it's just
I can't even imagine trying to do that.
Doubles up the boards and everything. I think that one of these expansions probably adds an extra person in there too. So, I mean, if everybody knows it really well and they know how to make everything work, then they can. It's one of those games that you do get more experience with. You can play it, and get to the point where you can make quicker decisions. But it's a heavy thinking game, and when you have a lot of games, you got a lot of other stuff that you're wanting to play. It doesn't get out as much as I would like it to, just for that reason.
I definitely want to be in a certain mood to play that. Yeah. When we played last, I was dying to get that thing out and play it again.
And when you're in the mood for it, it's again excellent game. I can't give it any bad knocks. There's nothing bad at all about this game. It's a wonderful game. Definitely deserves the rating that it has, whatever it is. I'm sure it's up in the high 8s or low 9s even. It's a really good game. But again, it's one of those ones where it'd be better to consider, how much do you play a game? Like, are you like, how often is it getting to your table versus you wanting to get other things out? How many other games do you have? If you don't have a lot of games and you got a game like Spirit Island, then you can like really devote the time to it, just like something like Solomon Kane. Like if you had 3 games and Solomon Kane was one of them that you just happened to get into, you're like, I'm going to get into board games, I'm going to go to Kickstarter, I'm going to get everything, and you're like, all right, I don't have money for anything else. Cool, we got games for 2 years here.
Yeah.
And then maybe those kind of people that are going to really, or you got a really hardcore game group that meets every week,
they get the most,
and you spend
sometimes it's really hard to get the most out of any of these games, no matter how much we like them.
It is.
And this is a great segue for the end of this video, which is basically how we choose.
Yeah.
How we choose whether or not to get them. So, do you feel like with crowdfunding stuff, do you feel like you learned your lesson and now you're very, very skeptical about what you get, or do you still like, if it's something tickles your fancy just right, do you go all in?
Well, okay, so I don't think I've ever been somebody that usually went fully in with the extras, like the accessory content, the stuff like the mats and things like that, just because I'm even more limited on space than Sean is, and so I can't have all that stuff in our little condo. But yes, I mean, I think definitely over time you get to that point where you start to like I call it like maturing in your board game hobby, where not to say that, again, if you're one of those people that you buy all the content, use all the content, that's great. You can be mature in that way too, but if you are mature enough to know that it's stuff that you aren't going to get out enough, like the new Zombicide that came out, and it's another just full iteration with tons of content on there. I know just from the core set, and the Kickstarter content that came with that game, that is more than enough for me. However, I really like Ninja Turtles. I'm a kid of the 90s, and I wanted the Ninja Turtles expansion, so I'm going to get the Ninja Turtles expansion with that, and that's it. There's other expansion content. There's just some random extra characters, little terracotta warriors and something else, like there's, and all these other little things that you can throw in there. And I'm like,
especially like CMON and the crowdfunding ones, you're going to get a whole nother box.
Right.
I think I was telling you that too. When you're going to get this whole other box of stuff that's already more than you'll probably play with and stuff. So but I'm with you. Like they usually it's one little thing that what's cool about CMON is they'll sort of modularly sell those things. Like, can't you just get the turtles by themselves? Like just
I believe so.
Yeah, so you can just kind of buy off those little segments and stuff.
It's one of their like true expansions. I think they had a bunch of like these little mini expansions. Like one of them added like 2 other types of zombies in it or something like that. It's like that's another little mini expansion, and all these other little mini expansions, and all these like guest artists doing like art that doesn't match the rest of the art of the game, and you're like, what? Why do I need all this? Why?
So there's a good point too. CMON is a big established company. They're going to mass produce. They're going to make lots and lots more than what is ordered for their stuff. So you probably can get those expansions. Or the secondary market is not too cruel for some of those things. There are a few things that I wish I'd gotten that they cost a little bit more, but usually if you wait it out, you'll figure it out, right?
Yeah, like for example, so I keep talking about Arcadia Quest with Sean because I was seeing this like huge sale that was going on for it recently at Miniature Market, and I was like, do I want to get it? Do I want to not? It was such a good sale. I did end up sweeping up the expansion content, which actually included a lot of those like exclusives that you were only getting in the campaign, as far as I'm aware. But they were like a couple bucks or something. I'm seeing people selling them for like 25 or whatever. I'm like, okay, whatever. Throw it together. I know with that game, like I can hang on to that stuff. Enough people really like it. I could get rid of the expansion content later. Just play the core set, see if I like it, and then if I don't, then keep everything else wrapped. Have some self-control and not rip it open as soon as you get it. But yeah, just play that core expansion content. See if you like it, and if you don't like it, then pass off the rest of that content along the way, and even the core box. Or maybe the core box is enough for you. You realize you don't need those expansions. Keep them wrapped and sell them at cost. If I sold those at cost, somebody else is getting a really good deal, and I'm not losing out any. I could even.
That's true. Yeah, you're helping out the community
in a sense. Yeah, you don't have to feel bad about grabbing it when you can and then passing it off later, because there's always people that want the expansion content. Any of these games, I think any of these games, there's people that love them. Love them more than anybody, and they're wanting all the content for it. And if you're selling it for like a cheaper than retail price because you got it on sale, then why not? So that's the thing too, is we've all paid shipping and stuff, and trying to break out the extra bit you paid for shipping, especially for an all-in, it would be kind of hard to do. It's hard to figure out where one box's shipping stopped and another one began. When you get 7 boxes of Solomon Kane stuff in. But the other thing to consider is that some of the crowdfunding companies, or some of the companies that use crowdfunding, they don't. And the reason I bring up crowdfunding so much is comes in the crowdfunding. The big thing that was a surprise to me when I started buying games this way was that you're buying what would normally in a normal retail cycle be like 3 years worth of content, because it would be like the game, and then 6 months later, hey, here's the expansion for that game, and then a couple of months later in the summer there'll be another expansion for that game. Instead, you're buying all of it, and you don't get to play it first. And you're lucky if you've seen someone play it on a video or something like that, or maybe now they do Tabletop Simulator and things like that. Yeah, that's really nice when they do Tabletop Simulator.
But I don't think I've ever, on Tabletop Simulator or anything, I've never played any of these games before I bought them. So it's always been sort of a roll of the dice and a risk picking up the extra stuff and knowing whether or not I'm going to like it. But there's been just enough times to where I can't find it that every now and then the FOMO part of this, and that's what got me with Solomon Kane too. I knew if at this point I decided I wanted all of Solomon Kane, it would be very difficult probably to track down, or maybe not. Maybe there's 30 other guys like me on eBay right now. I haven't looked, but but there are some games like if it's like just barely funded, or if it's a smaller company, then maybe considering getting whatever you're going to get for it right then.
That's a good point to make. Or I mean, so you can kind of look at it like video games too. A lot of people buy video games when they first come out, and you're going to pay that premium price to have it first. It's part of what you're doing in Kickstarter. A lot of people I think we kind of lie to ourselves to make ourselves feel better when we're getting all this content. You're like, oh, but this is just equity. Like, I can liquidate later. And sometimes you can. A lot of times you can't. A lot of times you put stuff up for sale and it doesn't sell, and then you have to just mark it down cheap. So that does go on. But if you're one of those, you're a kickstarting person, you're kickstarting all the time. You're kind of doing the same thing. You're getting it before everybody else does.
I think what happens,
not all the time. Sometimes the retailers will actually get it and ship it to you before. That does aggravate some people sometimes.
Oh yeah, that happens quite a lot.
Tiny Epic does that a lot, where they'll get their content out to the retailers, and the retailers will have pre-orders sent out before people are actually getting there.
That's because they ship directly from the factory, so they'll right from China. That boat's going in, and it's all retailer stuff to go in, and it skips that whole process, the whole like they do with quartermaster logistics, or so with that logistical process at the end that sends it to all the people. They get to skip that and go right into these retail hubs, which is a lot. And
if you're gonna be, you're gonna have crowdfunding, you're gonna try to reward the people that are backing you. It is kind of a lame thing that they do, sending it to the retailers for. It should get out to the people that are backing you first. You could argue and say the retailers are backing, but the retailers oftentimes will sell stuff at a cheaper price than retail too, than normal retail. So a lot of times,
if you just waited.
You can pre-order, get it cheaper, and have not supported the crowdfunding campaign. So it was a little, whatever. That's a gripe maybe for another video. But,
it's like, I guess in the spirit of it, you would think you would get some advantage, but that's rarely promised. Like a lot of people expect that, but they don't necessarily promise it. So you just have to keep that in mind that your buddy down the street might be getting that with free shipping before it arrives on your door. Because or reduce, like, what is it, Game Nerds? If you buy like $80 or $90, you get free shipping or something.
Only $75 actually with them. So we get free tax for some reason. I don't know why. So we do it all the time. But one of the things, like he was mentioning, smaller backers and smaller campaigns or whatever that maybe aren't going to mass produce their game. Those ones I actually feel better about supporting more anyways, because you're helping them actually create content where the other people don't really need you. Cephalofair doesn't really need you at this point. Come On doesn't really need you at this point. It's more because you want it than that they need it.
I think Games Workshop is the only company that made stuff that I was legit scared that if I did not buy it right away, I wouldn't have it.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah.
And thank God I broke my addiction to that.
It's one I'll stay away from.
Boy.
It's like that and Magic the Gathering. I just, not to knock it if you guys love it. It's an excellent game, but it is just a cash trap.
Plastic crack.
Yeah. So.
Well, folks, I think that's all we got for you today. Just a little bit of a discussion about expansions, some of our favorites, some ones that we feel like we could have passed on, and a little bit of advice for you if you're into backing things on crowdfunding sites and was curious about that. Did that come out okay?
Yeah, sure.
Felt like a mouthful of words right there.
Just whether you need to learn when to make these decisions to grab these expansions and not. It's basically the video.
Don't succumb to FOMO.
Yeah.
Ta-da!
Yeah.
Okay, folks, that's all we got for you today. Just a quick discussion. If you'd like to see more little discussion topics, we occasionally do those kinds of videos because they're a little bit easier to make. And so here's a
And
playlist.
they're fun to do.
Yeah, they're fun to do. We like talking about stuff.
Yeah.
Here's a playlist full of just things we're talking about. Over here's something that YouTube thinks that you'll definitely enjoy, and I'm pretty sure they would enjoy that. Don't you think?
I think we would. We would.
You can also subscribe to us. We'd love to see you again. And until next time, enjoy your games, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.